Imagine answering a phone call on a quiet Wednesday afternoon, and in the span of 5 minutes, discovering that your entire life, your future, had been stolen. Not by a stranger, not by some scammer, but by the people you loved most. Your own family. That's exactly what happened to me, and this is the story of how I turned their betrayal into the one thing they never expected: my freedom. My name is Emily Carter, and until the day that phone rang, I thought I was just another ordinary woman trying to make ends meet. I lived alone in a small, one-bedroom apartment, the kind with scuffed baseboards and the faint smell of old paint that never quite fades no matter how many scented candles you light. I wasn't rich, I wasn't glamorous, but I was steady. Responsible. The kind of daughter who always paid her bills on time, showed up to work early, and never caused a scene at family dinners. And maybe that was the problem. It was an ordinary Wednesday afternoon. I had just set my chipped coffee mug down on the desk in my little home office, ready to dive into another long, uneventful workday. My job wasn't thrilling, but it paid the rent, and I prided myself on being independent. That's when my phone lit up. An unfamiliar number flashed across the screen, pulsing like a warning light. Something inside me tightened, that instinctive, gut-deep dread that whispers, "Don't answer." But I did. "Hello, is this Emily Carter?" The voice was male, formal, steady. "Yes," I said cautiously, already bracing myself. "This is Charles from Liberty National Bank. We're calling regarding your overdue mortgage balance of $523,000. For a second, the world just stopped. The words didn't make sense. Mortgage? $500,000. My brain scrambled, searching for something to grab onto. I didn't own a house. I didn't even own a decent car. "You must have the wrong person," I said, fighting to keep my voice even. But the man pressed on. "The documents we have list your full name, date of birth, and social security number. You are listed as the primary borrower on a loan taken out 3 years ago." 3 years ago. My chest constricted. 3 years ago was when my younger sister, Jessica, had been daydreaming out loud about wanting a bigger house, a house she couldn't afford. The coffee mug on my desk suddenly felt like it weighed 100 pounds. I hung up after promising to look into it, though my voice cracked on the words. My tiny apartment seemed to shrink around me, walls pressing in as if mocking me. I tore open drawers, pulling out every old bank statement, every shred of paperwork, as if somewhere in that mess I'd find proof this was all a mistake. But the icy grip in my chest told me the truth before my mind caught up. It wasn't a mistake. Jessica. The realization hit like a slow knife sliding between my ribs. I remembered her flashing Pinterest boards at family dinners, talking about crown moldings and backyard pools. I remembered Mom's soft sighs. "Jess deserves the best." I remembered Dad's tired excuses. "She just needs a little extra help, Emily. You're the strong one. Always Jessica. Always the princess." And me. I was the reliable background character. The one who never complained. The one they knew wouldn't make a fuss. This wasn't just about money. It was about trust. It was about being treated like my life was disposable, just another resource they could plunder to keep Jessica comfortable. When my phone buzzed again, my stomach flipped. A text from Mom. "Hey, sweetheart. Hope you're having a good week. Family dinner Sunday." Like nothing had happened. Like my name wasn't chained to a $523,000 debt. I typed back one word, "Sure." Because before I confronted them, I needed the truth spelled out in ink. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the cracks in my ceiling until morning. The next day, with my hands trembling around a coffee I couldn't drink, I called the bank again. "Could you send me the mortgage documents?" I asked, my voice hoarse. The woman on the line was polite, almost cheerful, as she emailed them over. When I opened the PDF, my breath caught. Page after page, filled with my name. My information. My signature. Except, it wasn't mine. It was close. Almost perfect. But I knew every curve of my real signature, every shaky loop when my hand got tired. This one was too neat. Too rehearsed. Like a copy traced 100 times until it passed. I zoomed in, staring at the slanted loops, the way Carter was written just a little too perfectly. It felt like staring at a funhouse mirror, familiar but wrong. Every page was the same. My initials scribbled in margins. My signature locking in terms that chained me to a life I hadn't chosen. It was like watching someone rob me in slow motion. And the worst part, they hadn't even bothered to tell me. By the time Sunday rolled around, I was a storm held together by sheer willpower. Standing at the door of my parents' house, the one where I'd grown up, I felt like I was about to walk into a courtroom. Mom answered the door, smiling wide. "Emmy, so glad you could make it, sweetheart." Sweetheart. Like nothing was wrong. Inside, the house smelled of pot roast and lemon cleaner. Dad was sprawled on the couch with a beer, half watching football. Jessica was curled up, scrolling her phone, an expensive designer purse tossed carelessly beside her. Not one of them even looked up properly when I walked in. Dinner went as usual. Cheddar. Jessica complaining about landscaping costs for her yard. Dad grunting at the TV. Mom doting on her like she was the sun itself. I sat there quietly, my heart pounding so hard I thought they'd hear it. Finally, when the plates were cleared, I spoke. "Hey, I have a question." 3 pairs of eyes turned to me, casual, like I was about to ask where the salt shaker was. "Does anyone know anything about a mortgage with my name on it?" Silence. Jessica shifted, tugging her sleeves down. Mom's smile faltered. Dad coughed into his fist. I kept my expression blank. Calm. Mom broke first. "Honey, listen," she began gently, as though soothing a child. "It's not a big deal. It's family. Jessica just needed a little help qualifying for her loan. That's all. It's not like you're paying anything." "Not a big deal," Jessica echoed, defensive. "You have good credit, I don't. It's not fair that you wouldn't help. It's just paperwork." Just paperwork. I leaned back slowly, letting their words settle like ash in my lungs. They didn't think it was wrong. They had convinced themselves it was normal. That I was the selfish one for being upset. "Thanks for explaining," I said quietly, nodding. Jessica shrugged, already reaching for her phone again. Mom beamed, relieved. Dad turned back to his game. None of them noticed the storm gathering behind my calm eyes. They thought the old Emily, the invisible daughter, the dependable safety net, was still sitting there at the table. They didn't realize the storm would break in silence, and when it did, it would destroy everything they had built. That night after dinner, I drove back to my apartment in silence. No music, no podcasts, nothing but the dull roar of the highway and my own pulse hammering in my ears. Mom's words kept echoing, "It's not a big deal. It's family." And Jessica's voice, smug, dismissive, "It's just paperwork." To them, I was a tool, a signature, a resource to be mined. But to me, this was my life, my future, my credit, my ability to breathe without fear. I sat in my parked car for a long time, staring at the cracked asphalt of the lot. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight that the cheap leather squeaked. That was when it hit me. If I stayed silent, if I let this slide like they expected, I'd be chained to Jessica forever. Every missed payment, every bad decision, every new whim of hers would drag me down with her. And one day, when she got bored or careless, I'd be the one left holding the ruins. No, not this time. The next morning, I started making calls. Most lawyers brushed me off when they realized it was a family matter. Some even chuckled, as though I were a child tattling on a sibling. But then I found Mr. Warner. His office smelled faintly of leather and coffee when I walked in. He was a sharp, middle-aged man with steel-gray hair and eyes that didn't miss a thing. His handshake was firm, his voice low and steady. "So, Emily," he said, sliding on reading glasses as I handed him the mortgage papers. Tell me what happened. I poured it all out, the phone call, the forged signatures, the dinner table gaslighting. He didn't interrupt, just read through the stack of papers slowly, flipping pages with the precision of a surgeon. When he finally looked up, his eyes were cold. This, he said flatly, is fraud. Plain and simple. And from what I can tell, it's not sloppy. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. They forged not only your signature but your initials, your identifying details. This is felony-level identity theft. My throat tightened. Hearing it labeled so bluntly made it feel heavier, and yet, somehow lighter. Like the weight wasn't just mine anymore. What can I do? I whispered. Mr. Warner leaned forward. You fight back. We'll file a police report, notify the bank, and request a fraud investigation. It won't be quick, and it won't be easy. But if we move now, we can stop them from ruining you further. I nodded, my hands trembling, but for the first time in days, I felt something spark inside me. Hope. The police station smelled of disinfectant and old paper. I sat stiffly in a plastic chair as an officer clicked through my statement, his fingers tapping against the keyboard. So, your sister forged your identity to take out a loan, he said, almost bored. Yes, I said firmly. He raised an eyebrow. That's unusual. Are you sure you want to pursue this? Families usually work things out privately. I met his gaze, unblinking. I want to file the report. For a moment, he studied me, maybe waiting for me to back down. When I didn't, he sighed and kept typing. By the time I walked out of the station, clutching a copy of the report, my heart was pounding, but lighter. I had done it. I had taken the first step. The bank's fraud department moved faster than I expected. 2 weeks later, Jessica called me. Her voice was shrill, panicked. What did you do, Emily? The bank froze my account. They are saying there's an investigation. Do you have any idea what you've done? I almost laughed. What I've done? You mean what you've done? I said evenly. You stole my name. You stole my life. Now you're facing the consequences. She gasped, indignant. You're my sister. How could you turn on me like this? Funny, I said softly. I was going to ask you the same thing. I hung up before she could respond. For the first time in years, I felt power shift, just slightly, but enough to notice. Of course, my family didn't let it go. 3 days later, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to see Mom standing there, arms crossed, lips pressed into a thin line. Emily, she said, her voice dripping with disappointment, we need to talk. I stepped aside reluctantly, letting her in. She didn't waste time. What do you think you're doing? Involving police? Lawyers? You're tearing this family apart. I stared at her. I didn't forge anyone's name. I didn't lie to a bank. Jessica did that. She's the one tearing the family apart. Mom's eyes flashed. She just wanted a home. A nice place to raise her family. And you, she jabbed a finger toward me. You're making everything harder. Why can't you just let this go? She's your sister. The fury rose in me so fast it startled us both. Because I am not her safety net. I am not her punching bag. She stole $500,000 in my name, and you expect me to smile and nod. Mom's face hardened. You've always been selfish, Emily. Always. That's why Jessica needs more help, because you won't step up. I laughed bitterly, the sound sharp in the small apartment. Selfish? I've spent my whole life stepping up. Covering for you. For Dad. For her. Not anymore. For the first time, Mom looked unsettled. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but no words came. I opened the door. Get out. Her eyes narrowed. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said, my voice cold. But at least the regret will be mine, not hers. She left without another word. The weeks that followed were chaos. Jessica called me daily, her tone swinging wildly between tearful pleas and furious rants. Mom sent guilt-laden texts. Dad stayed silent. But little by little, the tide shifted. The bank formally suspended the mortgage under investigation. Debt collectors stopped calling me. Mr. Warner filed motions that slowly built a legal wall between me and Jessica's mess. I started sleeping again, real sleep, the kind where you don't wake up gasping. And one morning, I did something small but monumental. I bought myself a plant. A silly thing, maybe. Just a green little snake plant in a white ceramic pot. But as I placed it on my windowsill, I realized it symbolized something. Growth. Life. Something new that was mine and mine alone. Every day, as Jessica's life unraveled further, I watered that plant. And every day, I felt a little stronger. But the real shift came one evening when Jessica showed up at my apartment unannounced. Her makeup was smeared, her hair messy. She looked like a cornered animal. "Emily, please," she said the moment I opened the door. "You have to drop this. I'm begging you. The bank is threatening foreclosure. I'll lose everything." For a moment, the old instinct tugged at me, the urge to protect, to soothe, to fix. But then I remembered every word of dismissal at that dinner table. Every time I had been invisible. Every time they'd stolen my silence. I met her desperate gaze with calm steel. "You should have thought of that before you stole from me." Her face crumpled. "You don't understand. I didn't have a choice." "You had a choice," I cut in. "And you chose to betray me." I stepped back, closing the door slowly but firmly. On the other side, she started to cry. But I didn't open it. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one cleaning up Jessica's mess. I was the one holding her accountable. By the end of the month, Jessica was a mess. Her texts came at all hours, long, frantic paragraphs at 3 a.m., filled with accusations, apologies, and half-baked promises. One morning she'd beg me to talk to the bank for her, insisting she'd make it right. By the afternoon, she'd call me a cold-hearted snake for ruining her life. I stopped responding. Screenshots of her messages piled up on my phone, each one another piece of evidence for Mr. Warner's growing case file. But silence drove her mad. And when I wouldn't give her the reaction she craved, she turned to Mom. It started with calls. "Emily," Mom said one evening, her voice syrupy sweet, "can't you just drop this whole thing? Jessica's under so much stress. You don't want your sister homeless, do you?" "Mom," I said flatly, "she stole from me. She's facing the consequences of her own actions." Her tone hardened instantly. "Family is supposed to protect each other. You've always been so ungrateful. Do you enjoy watching your sister suffer?" I hung up. The next day, a Facebook post appeared on Mom's page. "Some children forget the meaning of loyalty. Some children choose selfishness over family. It breaks a mother's heart." Cousins, aunts, old church ladies, they all chimed in. "Praying for you, sweet Jessica. Stay strong, girl. Families fight, but blood is blood." No one asked for my side of the story. But instead of breaking me, their whispers forged me into steel. I wasn't the invisible daughter anymore. I was the wall they kept slamming against, and I wasn't moving. Mr. Warner called one Friday afternoon with a tone of quiet triumph. "The bank has officially acknowledged fraud on the account. You are cleared of financial liability. They'll pursue restitution directly from your sister." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Cleared. The word felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. I wasn't free yet. The legal battles weren't over, but the crushing weight that had been strangling me was gone. That night, I poured myself a glass of cheap wine, sat by the window with my little snake plant, and whispered, "We're gonna be okay." Meanwhile, Jessica's world crumbled. The mortgage payments stopped. The bank slapped foreclosure notices on her door. Neighbors whispered as weeds overtook her pristine lawn. I heard through the grapevine that her husband had threatened to leave if she couldn't fix the mess. By the time the foreclosure sign went up, his car was gone from the driveway. Jessica's perfect suburban fantasy, the Pinterest boards, the crown moldings, the pool parties she'd once bragged about, all of it collapsed into debt and silence. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty watching her fail. I felt vindicated. But the worse things got for Jessica, the nastier Mom and Dad became. Dad finally called me, the first real conversation we'd had in months. "You've embarrassed this family," he snapped, his voice thick with beer. "Dragging our name through courts, making your sister look bad. You think you're better than us, Emily? You're nothing." I let him rant, my phone held loosely against my ear. His words slid off me like rain. Because here's the truth, I was better. Not because of money or success, but because I had integrity. Something they'd traded away long ago. When he finally hung up, I blocked his number. And for the first time, I realized something monumental. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their love. I only needed mine. With every boundary I set, I grew stronger. I started going to yoga classes after work, learning how to breathe through the knots in my chest. I joined a local book club and found myself laughing with strangers who didn't know me as the responsible daughter or Jessica's sister. I even dusted off an old dream, photography. On weekends, I wandered the city with a second-hand camera, capturing slants of golden light and reflections in puddles. For years, I had been background noise in my own life. Now, slowly, I was becoming the main character. And every time I saw Jessica's name pop up on my phone, I ignored it with a smile. But Jessica wasn't done. One Saturday afternoon, I stopped by the grocery store. As I reached for a cat, I heard a shrill voice behind me. Emily. I turned, and there she was, disheveled, eyes wild, hair unwashed. People turned their heads as she stormed toward me. You ruined my life, she screamed. Do you even care what you've done? Shoppers froze, whispering. A manager hovered nearby, unsure what to do. I straightened my shoulders, my voice calm but cutting. No, Jessica. You ruined your life. I just stopped you from ruining mine. Her face went red, her fists clenched. You're heartless. I met her glare without flinching. And you're a thief. The crowd murmured. Someone pulled out their phone to record. Jessica saw it, panicked, and stormed out, shoving past carts. For the rest of the day, I walked a little taller. Because finally, people were seeing the truth. The breaking point with Mom came 2 weeks later. She showed up at my apartment uninvited, her eyes puffy from crying. Emily, please, she said, clutching my arm. Jessica has nowhere to go. She's losing the house. You can't just let this happen. She's your sister. I pulled my arm free. She made her choices. Now she's living with them. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I don't understand how you can be so cruel. You're not the daughter I raised. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, not guilt, but grief. Grief for the mother I'd never truly had. You're right, I said softly. I'm not. Because the daughter you raised would have let you keep walking all over her. I'm done being that person. Her face twisted, and for once, she had no words. She left in silence. I didn't chase her. By the time spring came, the pieces had shifted completely. Jessica was broke, her marriage shattered, her reputation in tatters. Mom and Dad were isolated, their manipulative games no longer working on me. And me. I was thriving. My apartment was filled with plants now. My camera was full of photos that made me proud. My laugh came easier, my shoulders lighter. The storm that had nearly drowned me had instead washed me clean. And deep down, I knew, the reckoning wasn't over yet. The biggest fall was still to come. It was a grey, drizzling morning when the notice went up. A bright orange sheet of paper slapped against Jessica's front door, foreclosure. Property reclaimed by bank. Neighbors gathered in the street, whispering. The pristine lawn that once hosted pool parties was now patchy and overgrown. The shutters hung crooked, paint peeling. Jessica stood in the driveway, arms folded, eyes darting as if searching for a way out. Her voice cracked as she screamed at the man stapling the notice. You can't do this. This is my house. The man didn't even glance at her. Not anymore. When his truck pulled away, Jessica's sobs filled the cul-de-sac. But no one moved to comfort her. The same neighbors who once envied her lifestyle now avoided her gaze. Her kingdom had crumbled. That evening, my phone rang. This time, it was Mom and Dad together. Emily, Mom began, her tone sharp. This has gone too far. Jessica is losing her home. Her life is ruined. Are you happy now? I closed my eyes, breathing slowly. I didn't ruin her life. She did. Dad cut in, his voice slurred and angry. She's your sister. Blood is blood. You don't turn on family. I laughed, not bitterly, but with a kind of clarity that surprised even me. Funny. You never seemed so concerned about family when you let her destroy mine. Silence crackled through the line. Then Mom hissed, You're cruel. Heartless. I don't even recognize you anymore. I smiled faintly. Good. That means I'm finally becoming myself. I hung up. And this time, I didn't feel guilt. Only freedom. I thought that would be the end of it. But a week later, as I walked up the steps to my apartment, I saw them. Jessica, Mom, and Dad. They were huddled by my door, faces twisted with anger and desperation. Emily. Jessica snapped the moment she saw me. Her hair was tangled, her clothes wrinkled. We need to talk. I stood tall, keys dangling in my hand. About what? How you forged my life away. How you lied to me for years. Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice was sharp. You ruined everything. The bank took my house, my husband left me. I have nothing because of you. My laugh was low, steady. No, Jessica. You have nothing because of you. I just stopped being your victim. Mom stepped forward, her finger jabbing toward me. Don't you dare talk to your sister that way. You're supposed to support her. She's family. I turned to her slowly, my voice calm but cutting. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't use each other. You stopped being my family the moment you chose her comfort over my future. Dad tried to speak, but his words slurred, collapsing into anger. Ungrateful brat. After all we did for you. I cut him off with a steady gaze. What you did for me. You raised me to believe my life was disposable. That I existed only to clean up Jessica's messes. But you were wrong. I'm not disposable. I'm not invisible. And I'm done. Jessica lunged forward, tears streaming down her face. Please, Emily. Just help me. I'll lose everything. For a fleeting moment, the old instinct tugged at me again, the urge to catch her, to protect her. But I thought of that phone call. The forged signatures. The dinner table where they laughed as though nothing had happened. And I felt nothing. I stepped back, my hand on the door. You already lost everything. And you earned it. Her face crumpled, her sobs echoing down the hall. Mom cursed under her breath. Dad shook his head in disgust, but I didn't waver. I opened the door, stepped inside, and looked back one last time. This is the last time you'll ever stand on my doorstep. Don't come back. Then I shut the door. Firm. Final. On the other side of the door, silence filled the room. Not the heavy, suffocating silence I used to dread, but a clean, peaceful silence. I walked to my window, where the snake plants stood tall, leaves stretching toward the sunlight. My reflection in the glass didn't look like the scared, invisible daughter anymore. I looked strong. Whole. Free. That night, I curled up with my camera, editing photos of golden sunsets and city lights. I laughed out loud at a silly meme in my book club group chat. I watered my plants, humming to myself. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was living my own story. Not Jessica's shadow. Not my parents' disappointment. Mine. People like Jessica, and people like my parents, think they can take without consequence. They believe kindness is weakness, silence is permission, and loyalty is endless. But when you take someone's life and try to claim it as your own, you forget one thing. Even the quietest people can find their voice. And when they do, the sound is thunder. In the weeks after shutting the door on Jessica, my world grew quiet. Not the brittle silence of old, where I waited for the next betrayal to drop, but a peace that hummed in the background like a steady heartbeat. For the first time in years, I wasn't living in constant reaction. I wasn't cleaning up anyone else's mess, covering their lies, or wondering when my parents would finally see me. I was just living. Every morning, I made coffee and watered my plants. I edited photos late into the night, sometimes losing hours staring at the way light danced across a skyline. I joined a weekend hiking group and even made new friends, people who didn't see me as a placeholder, but as a whole person. The more space I put between myself and my family, the clearer my vision became. I wasn't broken. I wasn't weak. I had been surviving in a rigged game. And the moment I stopped playing, I started winning. That doesn't mean it was easy. There were nights when I lay awake, wondering if I'd done the right thing. Nights when the word family still cut like glass. Because the truth is, even toxic love is still love. Even betrayal leaves behind an ache for what you wished had been. I grieved for the parents who never protected me. For the sister who never saw me as more than a resource to exploit. For the version of myself who begged for scraps of affection and mistook them for meals. But grief is not the same as regret. And with every tear shed, I felt myself getting lighter. Stronger. A month after the foreclosure, I booked a solo weekend trip to the mountains. Just me, my camera, and the open trail. As I stood at the peak, wind tangling my hair, the valley stretched wide beneath me, I felt something I hadn't in years, pride. Not pride in what I had endured, but pride in what I had chosen. I chose to stand up. I chose to fight back. I chose myself. And that choice, more than any revenge, was the real victory. Looking back, people sometimes ask me, wasn't that too harsh? Losing her home, her marriage, her whole life. But here's the thing. I didn't take those things away from Jessica. She did. I simply stopped carrying the burden she dumped on me. I handed the weight back to her and said, "This is yours, not mine." That's not revenge. That's justice. And justice, when it finally comes, doesn't need fireworks or flames. Sometimes, it's just a woman shutting the door on her past and walking into her future. If you've made it this far, maybe you're sitting with your own pain. Maybe you know what it feels like to be invisible in your own family, to be told your life is worth less than someone else's comfort. So let me leave you with the lessons my story carved into me. Silence is not loyalty. If someone is hurting you, your silence only fuels their power. Family is earned, not owed. Blood alone doesn't make someone safe or deserving of your devotion. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are survival. And survival is the first step to freedom. You are not disposable. Even if the people closest to you treat you that way, you are not. The day you believe that, the day you claim it, is the day your story begins again. So that's my story. The story of how my sister forged my name, stole my life, and thought she'd get away with it, until justice came knocking. Do I miss them? No. Do I regret standing up for myself? Absolutely not. I found my voice. I found my freedom. And honestly, that's the best revenge of all. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to cut off a toxic family member or walk away from people who kept hurting you? What gave you the courage to finally say enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And hey, if this story hit home for you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you never miss another wild Reddit revenge story. Because trust me, I've got plenty more where this came from. Thanks for watching, stay strong, and remember, sometimes the quietest voices roar the loudest when it's time for justice.